Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In today's review we're going to be taking a look at the newly released Aoyi Mech Dark Knight, aka the Nemesis Prime, based on the Transformers Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime design. Now if you are in the market to add this figure to your collection, he is available and in stock right now over at the Icon store, and for that I will of course leave a link down in the description box below to both the Icon store listing for this Nemesis Prime as well as a direct link to their front page. Also be sure to use code Prime vs Prime for a total discount off of your order. Now back to the review here for the Nemesis Prime. You can see that I've got him in this awesome pose striking down the previously reviewed Wei Zhang Optimus Prime, and he just looks absolutely fantastic. If this mould does appear familiar to you, that is because this is a drastically enhanced and upscaled version of the Studio Series Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime. However, in my opinion, this figure here has had significant improvements implemented into it in order to make it almost masterpiece worthy. I'll take the figure out of this pose, we'll go over the accessories, and then we'll take a detailed look at the Dark Knight himself. Starting off here by firstly taking a look at all of the accessories that are included with this figure. Of course we do get the most iconic accessory, that being the Ion Blaster, and similarly to some of the previously released third-party Optimus Prime Bumblebee renditions, I think that the detailing on this is really nice. You can see all of the fantastic sculpt work. Unfortunately there has been no paint applications that have been applied to this. This is just merely a black sculpted piece. However, in my opinion, I think that the detailings really do help set this apart from the Studio Series version, and this also does have an LED function, so in order to activate that you simply just want to push this button here and you can see that we have this awesome super vibrant red LED in there, which just helps to complement the Dark Knight when getting him into some awesome display poses. So definitely a very awesome weapon, and is of course very faithful to that of the Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime's Ion Blaster. We do also get an Energon Axe. This is very awesome. I love the detailing on this, especially here for the paint apps that we actually have got here for the blade. I think that the transparent orange plastic that they've used is also a really nice colour, and you can pick out some lovely details there of almost this smokestack to make this look as if though perhaps it has indeed transformed out of Optimus Prime's Alt mode. So the detailing on this is all really nice, and this too also does have an LED function, so in order to activate that you just want to push this button here, and we do get a red LED that will shoot off to the side here as well as to here, and I will take some photos later on in a more darker lit environment where you'll really be able to see that these LEDs do illuminate this entire blade section really nicely, especially when you've got this figure displayed. It definitely looks as if though there is dark Energon or red Energon firing through the blade of this, so that's super awesome to see, and you can see there the battery compartment on the back. So the sculpt work as well as the overall functionality here for the LED function I think is fantastic. We do also get an alternate head sculpt. This is actually the head sculpt that comes mandatory on the figure. This has got the much more shorter ears, and it's more of just an upscale of the regular Studio Series Bumblebee movie Optimus. I think that the paintwork as well as the detailing on this piece is all really nice, and once again we do also have an LED function, so you can just push the switch here on the back and the eyes will indeed light up a really awesome vibrant LED red. Now something also worth mentioning is that the other head sculpt that I do indeed have on the figure has the longer eared look. It doesn't matter in which head sculpt you do display on the figure, he does transform in the exact same way. It's just nice that they did give you that option in order to give him a more almost toy accurate look than as opposed to a movie accurate look. But the detailing on this I definitely don't think has been skimped out whatsoever. Really an awesome looking piece. So without further ado, let's move on to the Dark Knight himself. And so bringing in the Dark Knight himself here for a closer look, it is truly here that you can appreciate the amount of detailing and sculpt work that Aoyi Mech have indeed implemented into this release. I think that he looks absolutely fantastic. I'm not entirely sure as to whether or not it's because I had low expectations for this release, but I'm really blown away with this figure. I was not expecting him to look nowhere near as this good. Initially I did think that this was going to be a rather cheap knockoff. However, it isn't until I actually got this figure in hand that I saw how many changes that Aoyi Mech had actually implemented into this release that I really began to appreciate this. And in my opinion, this is potentially, once again, one of the better third-party renditions of a Transformers Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime. Now, as stated before, this figure does indeed come with two interchangeable head sculpts. The one that I have here is the ones with the longer ears or the longer antennae, just bringing in the mandatory standard one that comes packaged on the figure. You can see that the ears are considerably shorter, and in my opinion, match the actual Studio Series version more than this head sculpt. So this is a completely brand new sculpt, and I think that the detailing as well as the paintwork on this looks awesome. I'm a huge fan of the Nemesis Prime colour scheme, and to see Aoyi Mech do it such justice in this release, I'm just absolutely blown away. You can truly appreciate all of the sculpting and detailing here for the mouth plate as well as the fantastic, very vibrant and reflective silver paint applications. As we turn him to the side, all of the paint apps here on the side of the head are really nice and crisp, and then as we turn around to the back, you can also once again truly appreciate all of the sculpting and detailing here that we actually have for the back of the figure, as well as the exquisite paint applications. Once again, we do have some silver highlights as well as some darker gunmetal, and I just think this looks so awesome. This whole back section is a lot more streamlined than in comparison to the regular Studio Series Optimus Prime, and they have also drastically enhanced this entire shoulder section. The transformation for this figure really is completely different to that of the original SS figure, which I was not expecting whatsoever. You can see that we do have the option to actually angle the smokestacks backwards, which in my opinion just gives off a slightly more aggressive look and better matches the actual design of this character from the Cybertron sequence, as the smokestacks, when we do see Optimus Prime on Cybertron in that Bumblebee movie, are at a slight angle. I'm a huge fan of the colour of teal green that they have used. Whilst fairly subtle, the highlights that we do have on this figure I think look absolutely fantastic. It really does complement the really nice glossy black paint applications as well as the transparent red windows that they've used. I just think that this looks so awesomely menacing. As we bring him in for a closer look, you can truly appreciate all of that fantastically sculpted mechanical detailing. I think this looks mind-blowing. With each of these releases that we are getting for Bumblebee movie Optimus Primes, each company do put their own spin on the torso, and in my opinion, once again, I do think that the proportions on this are so nice. You can just appreciate all of the individually sculpted sections. Now, as far as I'm aware, this is just an upscale of that of the Studio Series version, of which I will bring out a comparison with later on in the review. However, in my opinion, painted a lot nicer. And as we turn our attention here to the forearms, you can once again appreciate all of the fantastic sculpt work, a lot more cleaner and sleeker in terms of their design than compared to that of the Studio Series version, and all of the fingers here are individually sculpted as well as articulated. As we turn our attention now down to the lower section of the figure, I think that the paintwork here is just absolutely tremendous. With this very reflective, almost chrome-like paint applications, I really do think that it sets this figure apart from other KO figures on the market. And as we turn him around here to the back, you can once again appreciate the glossy black paint as well as the gunmetal highlights that we have got throughout this figure in order to highlight some of the sharper details of the sculpt. And then as we turn here down to the feet, you can once again see some phenomenal sculpt work there as well as some fantastic paint applications. My only main criticism with this figure here in robot mode is that there is no real way to actually lock these feet in. You can see here that these do slightly wiggle out to the sides. However, if you get this figure into a pose, I have found that I don't necessarily have too many issues in regards to balance. It is just merely a minor nitpick that I would have loved to have seen rectified before this figure did make its release, but nonetheless, as stated, it is a minor flaw. Turning to the articulation, surprisingly, it is just as good as the detail. So we do have a ball joint here at the neck, which can tilt side to side slightly as well as rotate left and right. We also do get a hinge joint here, which allows for a fantastic range of motion looking upwards, so you truly are able to get the head looking in any direction that you so desire when posing this figure. It can of course look down slightly, which is fantastic. The arms, incredibly surprising, actually have a mechanism where you can pull them out to get a greater degree of motion. So just to demonstrate that, we do get a full 360-degree ratchet joint here, and we also do get a ratchet joint here out to the side. However, this range of motion in my opinion is not all that great, and it is here where you can actually extend the arm in order to get a greater range of motion. So just pull this out and you can see that we get a few more clicks outwards, which in my opinion is so awesome. And the detailing on this piece here is also really nicely done, and in order to compress it, you just simply give it a firm push and it will snap in there. We do get a full 360-degree rotation here at the bicep, as well as a 90-degree bend there for the elbow, full 360-degree rotation here at the waist, as well as an ab crunch, which was something that I was not expecting whatsoever. And you can really see here the range of motion that you can indeed get out of that ab crunch. It is a fantastic joint, which once again just allows you to get this figure into some more dynamic poses. All of the fingers are individually articulated at 3 points, so we do get a hinge joint here as well as a hinge joint here, and then finally a hinge joint right at the tip of the finger, and that does apply to all of the fingers here. And we also do get a ball joint here at the thumb, a hinge joint there at the knuckle, and then finally a hinge joint right at the tip of the thumb there. And you can once again appreciate that fantastic green teal paint application that is scattered throughout this release. We do have ratchet joints kicking out that far as well as kicking back to that far, which I think is fantastic. We also do have ratchet joints here out to the sides, allowing him to do the splits, full 360-degree rotation here at the thigh, as well as a hinge joint which just allows for a slightly over 90-degree bend. And now finally turning down now here to the feet, they can pivot forwards and backwards as well as rock side to side. Something worth noting is that this figure does indeed have die cast implemented into him, which means he's incredibly well balanced. The entire foot here is made out of a die cast structure, so he really isn't going anywhere when you do do sits him along the ground. Just overall a fantastic looking piece, and in my opinion, as stated throughout this review previously, I do think that this could potentially be one of the better third-party Bumblebee movie Optimus Primes. I definitely think that the changes that they've made to that initial Studio Series version really has amplified the sculpt, and I just love how clean he now looks and how well articulated he is. So without further ado, we'll move on to some comparisons, and then we'll go through the transformation. And so now, turning here for a very quick comparison, here we have the Aoyi Mech Dark Knight compared next to that of the Wei Zhang Commander, as well as the Studio Series Voyager class Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime. And it is truly here that you are able to see the drastic changes that Aoyi Mech have indeed made to this mold in order to give us the Dark Knight. The sculpt work on this figure I just think is so much more predominant. You can truly pick out all of the fantastic paint applications, as well as the significant changes, and of course the huge upscaling. This figure here is almost a Commander class scale. For those of you who have the Commander class Jetfire, I think that this figure here is even slightly taller than that. So this is just truly a mesmerising piece, and will no doubt make a fantastic display piece. But you can see the changes to do with the shoulders, as well as there for the torso, and of course the significant changes to the forearms and the legs. This figure here is basically, I'd say roughly about 80% brand new pieces that haven't just been upscaled by this figure, and I may even be underestimating that. This figure, for all I know, could actually be 100% new pieces, as looking at the both of them now, I can definitely begin to see the differences more than I can see the similarities. But just for another quick size comparison, here we have the Nemesis Prime compared next to that of the Wei Zhang Optimus, and you can see that he's even taller than that, which was already a huge figure. So now, turning to the transformation here for the Dark Knight, despite this figure looking rather similar to that of the Studio Series version, this figure here basically has a completely brand new transformation. Of course, there are certain aspects which are just a direct carryover of the initial engineering. However, there is significant improvements to this figure that definitely make this transformation a lot more challenging than that of the original Voyager. So to begin with, what I like to do is just come here to the hand and collapse the thumb down, and then just bring all of the fingers in, and repeat the same process here for the opposite side. So just bring the thumb in and then collapse all of the fingers. Then I like to come to this section and pull this out, and then take this whole piece here and pull this out also, and then you're just going to want to rotate that down. Repeat the same process here for the opposite side. So just turn around here to the back, untab this section, and then bring this here down. Whilst we're at the back now, we can actually detach this piece and then detach these sections here from the sides. So just repeat the same process here, so that all of this here has completely come away from the main torso. We'll then turn our attention here to the front, take the arms and pull those out and just extend those joints. We'll then take the front chest and just move it out of the way. And something also worth noting is that they've also sculpted in a matrix of leadership. However, it's very tiny. You can see that it's definitely not into scale with the rest of the figure. However, once again, it's just a nice attention to detail, and you can indeed actually remove this if you wish for the figure to hold it. But just concealing this section, you're going to want to pull down the head, bring the arms out here, and now just rotate this all the way around, very similar to that of the original Studio Series version. You'll then want to take these front light sections and just extend those, and then bring this piece here all the way to the front and ensure that it does snap into place. We'll then want to extend these pieces on both sides. Now what I recommend doing is coming to this, and you're actually going to want to take this tie here and pull this forward, and it will click out, which will then allow you to rotate that there to the side, and these will also snap into place. So repeat the same process here for the opposite side. So just take this here, extend this. It's very difficult to do as we don't have a great deal of clearance in here, but just wriggle this to the front, rotate this to the side, and snap that nice and securely into place. Once that's done, this will then allow us to bring this whole section back, and this is where things can get slightly sloppy. So I'll lower the camera down so that we can take a closer look. So bringing the camera down and just showing you what you have to do here for the front, you're going to want to ensure that this section here is detached, as that will then allow you to have clearance to rotate these pieces here all the way around, so that we don't bump or obstruct the range of motion of these. So repeat the same process here. So just rotate those around, and then it is here that you can actually tab this into place. We're then going to want to take these sections here and just pull those out to the side, and you can see how they do fill up this front section there of the front grille. We'll then come to the front windows and just compress those. I wouldn't recommend pushing this in yet, as we haven't come to the transformation of the arms yet. So here what you'll want to do is actually take this, rotate this around, and at the same time you're going to want to lift this section up and then also rotate this. Now this is very difficult to do, as you're going to want this piece here to also come around. So the clearance is definitely not on your side for this area of the transformation. This piece here will actually lift upwards, so you're going to want to extend that there on the double hinge joint, and then as we proceed to bring this back, you can see in how all of this is going to be according into place. So this here is going to come all the way. You're going to want to make sure that that elbow is hinged up and that that is snapped into place. You're then going to want to take the forearm, and similarly to the actual transformation of the original Voyager, you're going to want to rotate the middle of the forearm inwards so that we can just align up all of this. Once that's done, we can give this all a nice push, and that is basically this whole section fully aligned. You're then going to want to come to this section, align this up, so just ensure that all of this is nice and secured into place. We can then turn around here to the back and just take the head here, and similarly to the Voyager class version, just snap that there nice and securely. Rotating around here now to the opposite arm. Once again, this figure's major drawback for me in terms of transformation is the clearance issues. You're going to want to bring this section here forwards, and then at the same time rotate the bicep, and then hinge this section out, and then rotate here at the middle section of the forearm so that we have something that looks along the lines of this, so that we can then begin to just bring all of this in, and you can see how that will all nice and align and snap into place. These pieces here I have found to be some of the more difficult areas of the transformation, and for some reason this section here did decide that it wanted to pop off, so just snap this into place. These pieces here are definitely the areas of which I have the most difficulty. You just really have to give them a firm push, and you can see that they will snap in and just fill out this whole top section. Once that's done, we can turn our attention to this section and just fold this out and compress this here on the opposite side. Repeat the exact same process there for the other side. Of course, trying to get this side here tabbed into place so you can see how that's all nice and aligned. And then as we turn here to the opposite side, just repeat the same process, extend those, ensuring that these panels here are all nice and aligned as well. We can then turn our attention to this section. So once again, you can see these two ports here and here that will tab into these two tabs. Just snap those into place, and these tabs here will actually peg into these slots. So you're going to want to align everything up now, just shooting these tabs into place, and repeat the same process here for the opposite side, just so that everything tabs in with ease, as if you do one side without doing the other, it will make other steps throughout the transformation rather difficult to actually accomplish. So just snap this in, and then this in, turn to the underside, and ensure that those there are all nice and tabbed in. Now we just need to ensure here that everything is nice and aligned, and that is basically the entire transformation here for the front section of the cab. We can begin to neaten things up later on throughout the transformation, but turning here to the legs, this is definitely the more convoluted aspect of the transformation, in my opinion, as there are various panels in which need to flip and fold over in order for you to actually create the rear end of the vehicle. So to begin with, what I like to do is to actually turn the figure over here to the side and detach this section here. So just unpeg that and lift this section up, and repeat the same process here for the opposite side. Now this section here will actually come down on a double hinge joint and will fill out that gap and completely conceal this silver section. So just to show you it here on this side, extend this down and just snap that nice and securely into place. What we can then do is take this section and just hinge this forwards, which will then allow us to bring out the fuel tank, and then rotate this all the way around and just leave that there like so. Repeat the same process here for the opposite side. So just rotate all of this around, and that is the entire transformation here for these side fuel tanks. We'll then turn around here to the back of the figure and extend these sections out, and with this here you're going to want to rotate this all the way around, and then with this section this will come over the top and we'll just rest over that piece. So repeat the same process here for this side, rotate this here around, and then take this piece, and this here will just rotate and sit over the top. And then here with these fire plates, these are on hinge joints that will actually fold downwards. So if we just come to this section, extend those and bring those down. First of all, pull this section down also, and then just bring those down. Repeat the same process here for the opposite side. So just hinge all of this down and around. Now what we can do is take this here and is fold this outwards, and then as we do that, we're then going to want to actually collapse this in. Repeat the same process here for the opposite side. So extend this out and then just compress. And now turning our attention here to the back of the feet, you're going to want to actually detach this section and fold this down, and repeat the same process. So just detach those, fold those down, and then coming here to the front, you're going to want to bring this here down and around, ensure that this back piece is out of the way, and just rotate all of this in, until it aligns up nice and securely, and then repeat the same process here for this side. So just hinge that down, rotate this all the way around, and just snap this here firmly into place. And then as we turn our attention to these pieces, you can see that we do have some slots here on the side that these silver tabs will actually fill out. So bring that in, snap that into place, and repeat the same process here for this side. So just bring that up and also give that a nice firm push. And here is where you're actually going to want to bring in the ion blaster. Now the instructions tell you to actually fold down the magazine as well as the handle. I'm not going to be folding them down all the way, as I have found it to be incredibly difficult to actually pull them back out. So this is actually as far as I'm going to be pushing them down. Of course you can probably push them all the way in, however believe me, it's very difficult to get those back out. But what you'll do here is the tip of the gun will actually peg into this section, so it will slide into there, and then at the same time this tab here and then this tab here will peg into slots here and then here, and then finally the two tabs that we have here and here will peg into some tabs on the base there of the feet, just ensuring that everything here is nice and aligned. You're going to want to push this through, and this is rather difficult to actually convey on camera, but just give all of this here a very nice squeeze, and you can see how that will secure really nice into place. And then just repeat the same process here for this side, snapping all of that in. And the ion blaster really does make up the main majority here of the back section of the vehicle mode, which in my opinion is a great use of actually incorporating some of the additional accessories, and it looks really awesome and very fluid when actually installed here with the rest of the figure. And then finally we're just going to bring these two halves together, snap those in. You can see that we have two tabs here and here that will peg into these two slots, and then finally we've got these two slots here that these two tabs will peg into. So it's just a matter of pushing those down and then just giving everything a nice squeeze and ensuring that everything is tabbed into place. Lift the smokestacks up, and then finally pull the side view mirrors out. Repeat the same process here on the opposite side, and that is the complete transformation here for our Aoyi Mech Dark Knight, aka Nemesis Prime. Definitely a little bit more complex in terms of a transformation than compared to that of the Studio Series version. However, definitely similarities, and for sure a lot more engineering, and in my opinion this looks absolutely fantastic. As we bring it in here for a closer look, I don't think that the panels look all that bad whatsoever. The paint applications have come out really nice and crisp. You can see all of the nuts and bolts, and I love how the metallic red, the glossy black, as well as the very vibrant white complements one another. It looks absolutely terrific. We've got all of that sculpted in detailing here for the front section of the truck, as well as the red here for the headlights, as well as the translucent red, silver painted window wipers. And then as we turn here to the top, I love how all of this looks completely brand new engineering than compared to that of the Studio Series, and the entire back here is a lot more cleaner and is a lot more coherent than that original Voyager class. I just think that this looks so awesome, and the tyres are indeed rubber as well, which is something that I was not expecting to see, and he does roll really nicely. Unfortunately, I can never seem to get this wheel here rolling, but nonetheless I still think that he glides along the ground with ease, and just any Autobot or human that this comes towards, I just know that he's going to absolutely demolish them. But nonetheless, still a super awesome figure. We can of course remove these hubcap sections. They're very difficult to do. Actually bringing in a screwdriver to just demonstrate that, you just want to stick it in here and they do just pry out very easily, so that you can have a more coherent Earth mode look for your vehicle. However, in my opinion, I have no issues whatsoever in sticking these here on the side. It's an option that they give you and is an option that you can use, but just as a whole, a really awesome looking truck mode. In terms of a vehicle mode size comparison, here I have our Dark Knight compared next to the Masterpiece MP10 Ghostbusters Optimus Prime, and you can just see how significantly larger this figure here is in terms of his vehicle mode. He truly is a massive piece, and with all that added die-cast and all that added extra components, he definitely feels like a considerable weight. This is so heavy that it could seriously cause some harm if you were to hit someone with it, which of course you wouldn't want to do, but you can just see here how huge it is when compared next to the original MP10 mold. So in all, a very substantial figure, and in my opinion is more than worth the asking price. And so some final thoughts here for the Aoyi Mech Dark Knight, aka the Nemesis Prime. I absolutely love this. I'm not entirely sure whether or not it's because I was going into this review with incredibly low expectations for this figure. As stated before, this is not a figure that I was incredibly hyped for, as initially I did just think this to be a huge upscale of that original Voyager class. However, you saw when doing the comparison as well as going through the transformation and the various details of the figure that this is significantly more involved, and in my opinion is significantly more accurate than that of the original Voyager class. I highly recommend this, especially if you are after a very awesome transformable Nemesis Prime. Unfortunately, third-party companies never really tend to actually approach the Nemesis Prime region. I'm not entirely sure whether or not that's because they're worried about how it's going to sell, but here for this figure I think that he looks terrific. Even in his truck mode, very intimidating. The paint applications have come out really nicely, which was quite surprising to see once again for a KO figure. I think that the detailing in robot mode is fantastic. The transformation is something new and isn't just a rehash of that previous Voyager figure, so if you are after a more larger, more definitive representation of an Optimus Prime, I definitely think that this version here of the Nemesis Prime is super cool, and I think that his accessories are all really nice, especially here with the light up axe. So in all, a really nice figure and one that I can highly recommend. With all that being said, if you are in the market for picking this figure up, he is available and in stock right now over at the Icon store, and for that I will of course leave a link down in the description box below, and be sure to use code Prime vs Prime for a total discount off of your order. I really do hope that you enjoyed this review. If you did, please do let me know down in the comment section below. Also be sure to let me know whether or not this is a figure that you are planning on adding to your collection, or whether or not it is one that you're going to be missing out on. I really hope that you enjoyed my video, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.